Hello everyone, how y'all doing? So I wanted to upload this video. Contrary to what you may believe, this is not a follow-up to the most recent video I made on basically testing PlayStation 4 emulation with Chat PS4, because it was also Storm related, but it's actually not about that. I saw a tweet earlier today. They said, experience peak anime style ninja action. Unfortunately, I kind of agree with them on that. It's just them promoting the Ultimate Ninja Storm series lineup from 1 up until Connections, I guess. It's kind of weird to use Connections in this lineup because just to kind of explain, this tweet in question was in reference to the fact that some time had passed since the finale of either the manga or the anime, one of them. And so they were basically just kind of promoting the fact that, hey, you can relive the whole Naruto experience through the Storm games, which, kind of true, but, Storm 1 doesn't really recap the Part 1 story that deeply, so using Storm 1's a bit weird. I'd say from ship with it until the end of the series, basically. That part is mostly true. But regardless, it was kind of weird that they included Connections, because Connections is just doing an abridged version of all of the Naruto games, so it's not really adapting any new material, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, they were promoting that, and I didn't notice this at first, but apparently they have like a new logo. They redesigned the Ultimate Ninja Storm logo, which is something that I didn't notice. I actually did not notice when I first saw this tweet. I just saw the fact that they were promoting the old games. I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Promote your old games, I guess. But yeah, I didn't notice. Like, they did redesign the logo. And this has kind of piqued some people's interest. And apparently there's like a state of play for Japan that's gonna come out tomorrow, I think. And so some people are wondering if maybe this means that, we may be expecting some news regarding Naruto, because a couple of months ago, some people were asking Hiroshi Matsuyama about the fact that, hey, it's been a while since we've heard anything about Storm Connections. Like, have you guys basically given up on the game or anything like that? And his response, I think I have the tweet here with me because I saved it on like my bookmarks, my tweet bookmarks. But he essentially said that they haven't necessarily given up, but they can't really talk about what's currently happening behind the scenes. Like that's basically his response, is that he can't really talk, but the only thing he can guarantee is that the intention is not to give up. And some people, they've been kind of trying to decipher what that might have meant, because at the end of the day, that doesn't really mean a whole lot, because it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to continue doing anything with Storm. It could just be that they're not allowed to say that they're not going to continue anything with Storm. And yeah, it's kind of hard to decipher what that could have what they could have meant, I suppose. But with this new logo redesign, as well as the fact that there's state of play for Japan, some people are wondering, oh shit, maybe something might be happening. Now, I'm going to share my own personal theories as far as what I think could happen. So I'm going to start with the less exciting possibility, which could explain the logo redesign, which is that, honestly, maybe they just felt like doing it because, in general, the Storm series, like, I wouldn't necessarily say that Storm has ever had like a fixed logo in terms of like the logo for representing Storm, because the logo for Storm 1 is not the same for Storm 2 or 3 or 4 or Generations or Revolutions. It always had like a different color, slightly different effects, slightly, I think in general they use the same font, but like, yeah, it wasn't always colored the same. And so this could just be like a sort of universal logo for representing the Storm series, which would definitely be the least exciting one. But it is worth considering that maybe that might be just what's going on, and following that, we shouldn't really expect anything beyond that. Now, the other possibility is that they might be, at least based on this tweet, is that they might be planning on releasing a second legacy release in which this newer legacy might include Storm connections. I think this would be a really weird release to make, but again, it is possible. This personally, it could, I don't know, I'm not sure how to feel about this, because on one hand, this could give them the opportunity to include some of the DLC characters on a disc, which is something that I would be willing to pay for, because I'm just that type of person. When it comes to DLCs, like recently, for example, I haven't actually been buying a lot of DLCs, because honestly, I'm kind of sick of the fact that whenever you buy DLCs, you have to buy it from the PlayStation Store, and even if you buy like an Ultimate Edition or something like that of games, they only come with a code for you to redeem all the DLC content. I just don't like that anymore, and so I've been buying less and less DLCs, because like, to me, it's like, unless I actually own the DLC, I don't really see much of a point in buying it. But if they were to release like a Legacy 2 type shit and they include the DLC content on a disc, that might be worth considering. But if not, then I don't know, this just feels like a really weird release. Like, can't you just purchase the already existing Storm Legacy and just buy Storm Connections? I don't know why they want to make a second release for this, unless they plan to include Storm Generations and Revolution. But a part of me kind of doubts that they will do that, because Generations and Revolutions, while I do personally like those games, they're not really that marketable. Like, at least with the numerical series, they can kind of hype those games up for the story mode and use a lot of the cutscenes from the QuickTime events to like enhance how they promote these games. But like Generations and Revolutions, they don't really have that marketing appeal. So I don't know if Bandai Namco is really gonna think it's all that worth it to port these games to newer platforms. So a part of me kind of doubts that they're gonna do that. And so here's the third possibility, which kind of seems likely, which is they might release an expansion, more specifically a story expansion, in which maybe they adapt some portion of the Boruto material after the Chunin exams. So ideally up until the end of part 1 of Boruto. Maybe after that they could release like a few DLC characters for like part 2 of Boruto after the time skip. If they were to do that, I would have preferred if they were to release like some kind of like equivalent to Road to Boruto, in which the expansion and DLC content is included on the disc. But still, if they were to do that, that would at least reinvigorate interest in Storm Connections a little bit. And I don't know, might be an opportunity for them to sell a couple of bucks, because I'm sure people would line up to experience the content, because there's some cool stuff that happened during that period of Boruto that I think people would really appreciate seeing CyberConnect 2 adapted. So I think it's a good opportunity. I don't know if they'll actually do that, but it might be worth it. The other possibility, and I think this is what people actually want, is they just release Storm 5. Like, they release like a full-blown Storm 5 with a proper story mode and hopefully newer mechanics, hopefully something that feels a bit fresher than what Storm Connections did. Even like even if the amount of progress that they did was comparable to Hinokami Chronicles 1 to Hinokami Chronicles 2, I think people would still be a little bit more forgiving if it, at the very least, it meant that they were experiencing a new, like, proper story mode that's like, I don't know. How long is the story modes in Storm? Now that I think about it, probably, well, at least with Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles 2, I think it took me like 10 hours-ish to finish the story mode. So, yeah, like, if you gave us like a 10-hour story mode, then I think people would be willing to forgive, even if the changes weren't really that great. Obviously, I do want them to have like more revamped, not just a revamp, but like truly a new game. Like I would certainly want them to make like a proper new game, but still, this would definitely be the best scenario. Obviously, they would charge $60 for that. Also, one other thing, if they were to release a new game, I think they need to stop with the whole cross-buy thing, because look, I've like, if you guys watch my previous videos, you know that I've never really bought into the whole cross-buy games are like ruining new gen games in the sense that they're being held back by the 8th generation of consoles. You know that I've never really bought into that because especially now that it's 2025 and we have seen some 9th gen exclusive games, I can 100% confirm that 8th generation wasn't doing dog shit to hold back those games. It was the developers. Like, at the end of the day, if the developers don't want to do anything to actually make the experience feel unique and actually take advantage of the hardware, they're not going to do it regardless if they intend to release this for 8th generation or not. But still, with that said, with CyberConnect 2, there are some reasons I do have for why I do believe they would benefit by making this 9th gen exclusive. Some of it I have talked about in the past. Maybe I'll link the video somewhere, but like, there are some aspects of the Storm games that maybe if they didn't have the same limitations from stuff as early as even 7th generation, then maybe they might have more opportunities to maybe not be so held back on some aspects that I feel like Storm has been regressing, like for example the open world experience, the amount of side content existing in the story mode. Maybe if they didn't have some of the platform limitations that they've had over the years, that maybe some of these problems could be ironed out, because it's not like they haven't done this in the past. So I don't know, obviously this is me kind of coping a little bit, but I will say that like maybe this hypothetical Storm 5 would be the one game where I'm just like, please don't release it as a cross-buy. But I mean, at the end of the day, if they do, then it's like whatever, I guess. If they still want to release these games for PS4 and Xbox One because they think there's a big enough market for them, then I guess, but still worth considering. With that said, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Again, like I said before, this new Ultimate Ninja Storm logo redesign could just be a nothing burger, could not really mean a whole lot. It is definitely suspicious. It is definitely worth checking out. It is definitely worth checking State of Play Japan or any of the upcoming events that might occur in the future to see if maybe this might mean something. But at least so far, I would still kind of keep our expectations in check, because I think having high expectations was one of the reasons for why we were so disappointed by Storm Connections. I still think that game would have disappointed people even if people hadn't had like such high expectations after all the leaks that occurred throughout 2022 to 3. I think people would still be disappointed, but I think the disappointment expanded even further because of those leaks. And so, and by leaks, I'm not saying that like, oh, you know, we were promised things that we ended up not seeing in Storm Connections, because technically speaking, at least if we're talking about the leaks from Century in Japan, I don't recall him ever promising anything that ended up not showing up in Storm Connections, because in general, he was pretty quiet about it. I think it was more so that he was hyping up the game to an extent that people were using their imagination to fill in the blanks of what we could be seeing from Storm Connections. And so when we ended up seeing the game for what it was, we realized, oh, this is not really, this does not live up to the hype that I was building up over the past year. And so we should definitely have our expectations in check, because this could just be a nothing burger. We could end up not seeing anything, but I think at the very least it's worth paying attention to. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to share. I might end up editing some Storm footage on top of this, and hope y'all have a great day.